I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today I'm joined by Mr. Craig Perra. He is a world-renowned expert in overcoming compulsive sexual behavior, sex addiction, and porn addiction. As the co-founder of the Mindful Habit System with his amazing wife, Michelle, Craig has helped thousands, including Olympians, professional athletes and coaches, famous celebrities, C-suite executives, religious leaders, and high achievers, among others, from all walks of life, take control of their addictions and transform their lives using an evidence-based alternative to traditional 12 steps in therapy. Together, they run the highest rated sex and porn addiction recovery program in the world based on 490 verified client testimonials. They have a 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, and they've also been featured on countless shows and networks, including the Steve Harvey Show, the Kate Couric Show, Anderson Cooper, A&E Lifetime Television, and the BBC. Now Craig is going to be here, and he's going to share his wisdom, challenge traditional recovery models, and help you lead all parts of yourself, especially the ones you hate. So, Craig, thank you so much for coming on. I cannot wait to hear this story and hear this recovery and this this program that you have going on. It seems like it's doing really well.
Well, thank you, Noah. It is a privilege to be here. I love your vulnerability and putting yourself out there to the world, and I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you today.
So tell me a little bit of just kind of from the beginning how this program came to be, and just a little bit about how what made you decide to focus on really hardcore addictions and things that are kind of hard for people to kind of confess and be like, yes, I have this problem.
Yeah, yeah. This program, Noah, is built on deep and profound failure. My deep and profound failure. I've struggled with mental health issues for a huge part of my adult life. I had this like contrast. I was successful on the outside. I was an attorney. I married my college sweetheart. Eventually had 2 beautiful kids. Lawyer for the big firm. Get promoted, go to the big company. But I was hiding something really, really, really became really dark. And what started as an innocent hobby, watching porn, masturbating, led to incredible darkness and shame, lying to my wife, cheating, prostitutes, Noah, drugs, just somebody who hated himself at such a profound and deep level. I hated myself so much 15 years ago. I tried to hurt myself. And that's when I was hospitalized. They put you in there for 3 days when something like this happens. And as I was sitting there and I was receiving the treatment, which was the same treatment that I had gotten historically, talking about the same things family of origin, trauma. I just got to go dig deeper. I just got to dig deeper. I just got to dig deeper. And then I'll be free because there's a lot of trauma there. And I had it at that low point in the facility. Like in the facility, I said, gosh, I think I could make a better mousetrap. I wonder if I could make a better mousetrap. Could I maybe could I come up with a way to lead me out of this darkness that wasn't more therapy and more meetings? And not because those two things, Noah, aren't wonderful. I want to be crystal clear. Do those things. But the reality was, based upon a recent suicide attempt, I needed something more. I needed something different. And at that low point, I dedicated my life to finding something different, saving my marriage, becoming a man that I could be proud of. And so at that low point, my wife actually found a therapist who did not subscribe to the sex addiction and porn addiction model, was really big on teaching tools, and his program like had structure to it. And he ended up hiring me because he saw how well I did helping clients. And you know, as you said in your thoughtful introduction, I've worked with over 1,000 people in 30 countries, built something really special. But to answer your question, where did it come from? It came from failure, shame, and just a deep desire that said, there's got to be another way. And I found that other way that works for me. May not work for John, Stephen, and Sally, but works for me. And here we are.
When you go into this recovery stage, when you're after you say like, yes, I have a porn addiction, do you have I have a sex addiction? What kind of recovery methods do they try to do to help kind of lower the addiction down?
Yeah. So the treatment that I was receiving prior to this therapist was more trauma work, digging deeper into the trauma, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, the shame, the adoption, you know, all those things, and going to meetings, which is wonderful. What this therapist had me doing, Noah, one, he helped me realize that mindfulness is really important from a practical self-control perspective. I didn't know that. So that was an important distinction. So practicing mindfulness, using skills to regulate those in the moment responses when we get triggered and we get angry, we get frustrated. The other thing that I learned at that low point, that there was a lot of controversy around calling compulsive sexual behavior sex addiction and porn addiction. So I started focusing on things like the purpose in my life, like who I wanted to be, where I wanted to go, the man that I wanted to transform into. I started learning tools to regulate those in the moment stressors, which ultimately would lead me to act out and break down. And this therapist introduced a concept called parts work, which we can get into. Um, some of your listeners may have heard it described as the internal family systems model. Others might think of the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out with the characters in that person, the teenage girl's head. That's parts work. And parts work has had probably one of the single greatest transformative impacts on my life and the lives of my clients.
So with this company, the Mindful Habit, tell me a little bit about how you kind of got this program to kind of take off like it has, and kind of share some things that you've learned from this program about, I guess, learning from people's addictions.
Yeah, I love that question. So one of the things I learned, Noah, and it's going to sound so simplistic, but it was so powerful when I realized and learned and felt it in my body that different people respond to different treatments. Different people responds to different treatments. So the statement which people often say in 12 steps, it works if you work it, that's not true. Because you can't say that that medication is going to work for everybody. We know that you could have a wonderful medication that, you know, resists antibiotics, but but it doesn't work for other people. So realizing, Noah, that not every program worked for everybody led me into figuring out, okay, so who is the person that I serve best? And it got me obsessed with fitness. Like, what problem do I need to solve? Does this client have the problem that I have? So we have a money back return, unconditional money return policy. And we ask people, hey, it's 29 days. Are you doing good? Are you doing great? No, we don't wait to 29 days, Noah. But when you realize that not every program impacts everybody, it's helped me be ethical, honest with people, develop referral sources to send people out. We had a guy in the program who we figured out had OCD. He needed to get his OCD regulated before he could get value in the program. So I learned who my client avatar is, Noah. And I know the people, generally speaking, who I'm going to connect with, who I'm going to serve. And over 13 years, one of the things that I had to build into the system, because again, my program was built in response to my frustrations with traditional recovery, 12 steps and AA and Sex Addiction Anonymous. So I built a model that had to evolve, and it has tremendously over the years. So to answer your questions, those are some of the important things that I learned. There's more. Obviously, there's so much more, but not every program is for everyone. And the last thing I'll say in terms of what might be value to your listeners is I learned that we as human beings, as the habit machines that we are, all of our behavior, including the behavior that we're not proud of and that we feel shameful about, is meeting a need, is serving a purpose, is doing something for you in the way that it was trained and conditioned, which is why that childhood stuff is important. So, yeah, those two things are like pillars of my life, recognizing that all of my behavior, including my bad habits, including the addictive behavior, was parts trying to meet needs. Does that make sense? 'Cause might be a little tricky, I think.
I mean, it makes sense to me. It's at the end of the day, you're just wanting to help people with their addictions. I'm kind of curious to see from the people that you've had in the program, have there been cases where you've been real shocked at what kind of addictions they've been addicted to when it comes to the pornography and to the sexual sex addicts that you've had? So I could imagine you've had wild,
Yes,
wild
yes.
clients.
That is so. It's been a while since I've been shocked. It's been a while since I've been shocked. And the reason for that, no, is because there are certain fetishes, for example, or certain behaviors that put people outside of a coaching program and someone who needs therapy to process those deeper underlying issues. So someone who's attracted to younger people, for example, may need local medical treatment, or someone with a fetish that's having serious disruption on their lives. So, my clients watch too much porn, lie about it to their partners. And are they watching fucked up stuff? Absolutely. That is one of the hallmarks of someone who hits a low point, is they're watching things that are completely out of alignment with who they are, who they want to be, and even what they actually want to do. And they're lying about it. What's shocking me now is that in the younger clients that I get in, Noah, and I don't even have the right words for it, I'm still figuring it out. There's a different type of damage that's done that starts from early exposure to porn. It's impacted plus social media, their attention span. The wiring is deeper in these guys because they've been programming that arousal template and that reward system for decades. And the different ways that people are acting out now, for example, the AI girlfriend market, Noah, is presently a 3.6 to $8 billion market today. So what people are doing, yeah, I've seen the crazy sex acts and Um, the genres of pornography that are pretty raunchy. Um, what's shocking me the most today is the impact of social media on the development of a young boy and man's sexuality, and the impact of pornography, high speed, high quality video pornography, Noah, that starts, and I've read statistics, the average age of exposure is 11, 8 to 11. So the damage that's done at that young age is massively impactful. It corrupts someone's arousal template, meaning they get more perverted. They turn into perverts. And that, like, and their partners are like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what is wrong with you? So much damage.
Hearing about people that are between 8 and 11 be exposed to that, it's just mind-boggling to me. But it's sadly the reality is that, and who knows, there might even be people that are younger than that. Yeah, probably younger than
Absolutely.
that. They get
Yes.
addicted to that and exposed to that. But I like that you kind of brought up the AI thing because it reminded me, one of my friends, I think, uses one of the AI chats for dirty talk or something, and he got me curious about like what he said because he was like, "Oh, I've said some real nasty things on there you do not want to read." I'm like, give me the phone. I want to read what you've put down." He would not give me the phone for anything. I was so curious at that point. I said, you're just feeding my curiosity now." I was like, "Give
Yeah.
me the phone." He never
Yeah.
did, so I'm like, what could you be saying on there that I can't read? I told him, I said, trust me, I've probably heard everything in the book. At this point,
Yeah.
I've heard everything. My ears have got. There's no point in return.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a
so.
testament to the shame, right, Noah? It's a testament to the shame and what appears to be evidence that he's going to darker and darker places because he can.
Mm,
We want more. We're more seeking creatures. It's in our DNA, dopamine, the more molecule. We want more. And so squish that into our arousal template, our sexual drive, it goes dark really, really fast. And the other thing too, Noah, so while the perversion and where it goes is problematic, the other place where it's problematic is that your friend and a lot of other people have developed relationships with these AI chatbots. And there is at least two cases that have gone public where the person, you or me using the chatbot, said, "Hey, chatbot, I'm struggling with suicidal ideation. What should I do?" The chatbot response is, "Come to me. Let's be together." How do you think the kid took that? So it's dangerous. That relationship component is dangerous. It's nefarious. Even if the chitty chat is like normal flirty, like let's say it doesn't even get sexual, that relationship part can do a lot of damage to the young developing mind and create this false sense of safety and connection because it knows everything. You've programmed it to be everything you want it to be. And that person's going to be really challenged to go out onto the real world and meet a partner, ask her out, be healthy in that relationship. And so we are in literally a crisis of men. And I'm not the only one who's saying it. You can Google this. We are in a crisis of male loneliness, of mental health issues, of uh, sickness with porn and social media, getting caught up in these rabbit holes. But that's why you're doing this, brother, for them. They need to hear this. They need to know that there's another way. There's things you can do to make it better.
yeah, it. I was one of the people that got introduced to it at a young age. I was 13, 14, which some people would be like, "Well, that was late." And I'm like, "Well, well, excuse me. I was too busy watching cartoons growing up to where I didn't get exposed to that." But my story is really odd because I can't pinpoint how I got addicted to it. I just remember there was a pornographic picture of someone on Google that I think I was looking at a celebrity and somehow a nude photo of them came out. which me being naive and stupid at the time thought it was real. I look back at it, obviously it was photoshopped on. It was their
Ah,
head photoshopped onto a body. So I see that now as, oh well, obviously that's fake. But at the time was just kind of like mind blown from it. And usually when some people that are young, even between that 8 and 11, when they're watching it, they knew prior, before watching it, what most of the stuff they were doing was.
mm-hmm.
I was just confused. I was so lost. I was like, uh.
Yeah.
Like I was the
And how old were
monkey,
you?
let's see,
13.
13, 14, around that age.
And not to pick on your parents, it's to acknowledge how difficult it is for parents to have these conversations with your children, because if you have kids someday, you're going to make damn sure that there ain't no surprises, that they're going to
Yeah.
be educated, that they're going to be aware. And that's what's happening now, Noah. Because the parents, didn't know, they didn't appreciate the risk. They assumed the technology companies were protecting the children and, encouraging them to give them devices. They're not. They're absolutely not. They're not. And they want you on social media. You're the product. You're the product. But yeah, no, it's hard when it must have been really confusing for you. And you probably got curious, right? What happened?
Oh, I just went down this huge rabbit hole of like, ooh, it's so confusing because I think I did it. I I was intrigued more of like the wanting to know what it was more than I was aroused by it.
Yeah.
I was also dealing with mental health issues at that time, so I was also dealing with depression, and so it was kind of an escape for me about what was going on. So that's kind of how I got really addicted to it. It was kind of a escape for me. And
Let me just pause you there, Noah, because you said something really important just to reinforce all behavior is need seeking behavior. You just described the need, it's giving you an escape. It's giving you a release. It's giving you joy, excitement, titillation. And when you're a child and you've got all these challenges of life around you, it's also giving you autonomy. It's your secret. It's yours. This is ours. This is just for me. This is my thing, not for anybody else. My treat. So there's a lot wrapped up into that. And I'm guessing that there was a lot to escape from.
yeah, I was dealing with so many personal stuff at that time, and then it was just kind of like an alternate reality for me. My brain didn't have to focus on what was going on. I just could focus and watch that. And it got bad to the point where it was I didn't really want to do schoolwork. I instead just stayed up and watched it. I was sort of dumb when it came to it because I would watch on my computer, and of course my computer was facing the door. And so I wasn't the smartest when this came to be. So I did eventually get caught doing it. Yeah, that wasn't a fun conversation. It was like,
No, me too. I
so
remember I remember the look on my mother's face. No, I'm 54 years old. This had to be 54, 50, 47 years ago. I remember the look of disgust on her face.
yeah, and I was dumb. I was watching it in the middle of the day. I know that's probably
Oh
big.
no.
That was probably big. Oh no, honey. It was one of those things of like probably professionals could have been. Oh, honey, you don't you don't watch it in the middle of the day. And but at that point, I didn't know, and
Yeah. Was it that you
people,
were so naive about it, Noah? Because that's wild. Right? You're watching in the middle of the day, just like you're watching another video. That's what you're
yeah.
finding. Or did you know, like deep down, was there shameful programming growing up? Sin and shame and bad and pleasure's bad, masturbation's bad, or the other spectrum is it's not talked about at all.
It was kind of a middle of both. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I was still naive at the time because I didn't know like
Mm.
the damaging, because I actually wasn't doing any sexual stuff. Shockingly enough, I didn't really know about jerking off until it was like a year or two after I started.
Wow.
So I was still naive because I my parents did a really good job of keeping me protected from stuff like that growing up. They didn't really talk about it. They didn't say this was bad or anything like that. I had a very protected childhood and kind of was I was limited on what I could watch. I couldn't really watch PG rated movies, even on TV where all the cussing gets bleeped down. That was just like a big no, and I especially was banned from watching R-rated movies. So when it came to nudity and stuff like that, if it did happen to come out, my eyes would always get covered. So I technically didn't know any of that stuff. And so when it was just fascinating to me kind of seeing how like you did it and everything. But yeah, it's so confusing to explain because people say, well, you knew what was going on, so you couldn't have been naive. And I said, well, in a way, yes, I was naive because I didn't know any of the terms. And
Right.
even when it got to like high school and late in high school, when people use terms, I'm like, what? What? What is
Yeah.
that? I said, oh, that's what that is. I said, okay. When they explained what it was, I knew what it was. I just didn't know the terminology. Now,
Yeah.
at that
There was a
point,
naivety about, you know what you're saying. There was, yeah, and that's the value of parts work, by the way, because on one hand you can be naive, on the other hand, want to watch it or know you'd get in trouble if you get caught. Those things
yeah,
can coexist.
yeah, you probably explained it real good. I was naive in the fact that I didn't know what anything was, but I was at the same time like shameful of like getting caught. So I was in the middle. I was I knew what I was doing was bad, but I was still kind of like intrigued by it. It was it was a bad it was a bad drug. It was. I don't think I ended up getting help for it because I think I grew out of it. It got better.
Mm,
Now,
good for
granted,
you.
do I still watch it frequently? Yes, but it's turned into it's not affecting my life. Like this is how bad it got. It got to the point where I would watch it hours on end. Whenever I was by myself, I would watch it. Even if I was in the car, if I was alone in the car, I would watch it, or just watch something kind of like sexual. I would watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would get to the point where I would have to look over my shoulder everywhere I went, or if I was in the car, if I was in my bedroom. I didn't do homework because I got in that thing and said, okay, I want to watch one video and I'll do homework. And sometimes I get mad if my internet wouldn't work well where I couldn't watch it,
Yes. Impacts your mood.
and it impacts my mood and everything. So it's gotten better now. It went from watching it during the day, couldn't do anything with life anymore to till I watch it just when I'm like you said, I love I'm admitting this, masturbating or something like that. I do it when I'm doing like sexual arousal. That's when I
Right.
do it for. So
Right.
my addiction's gotten way better. It turned into like went from maybe 15, 20 minutes a day to like from hours and hours on end.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So you reduce the time component, the frequency component, and it sounds like the severity component is the graphic nature of the content, how long and what you watch. And it sounds like you've made improvement in those two areas. And I love that, Noah, because one of my missions is to broaden the scope of the conversation beyond sex addiction and porn addiction to healthy sexuality. And you talked about earlier that more holistic approach. Like, is this powerful force bringing value? Is it you feel better about yourself? Is it creating joy? Or, and listen, there's no judgment here. Is it primarily being used as a coping strategy? Is it taking me places that I don't want to go? Is it the mechanism when I'm uncomfortable? Because there's so much literature out there, Noah, now around how important it is to be bored, how
mm,
important it is to be able to sit in discomfort without having to reach for that thing that just makes it all go away. And it's an opportunity to really, I think, strengthen your core and make a better choice, a better choice. So when you talk about sex and porn addiction, it's all or nothing. And that's right for some people. And I support those people and keep doing what you're doing. And that's like this much. The rest of the people who are struggling, who are having issues, who are lying about their sexual selves to their partners, that are watching things they don't want to, are primarily using as a coping strategy. Well, that's everybody else. And that's the conversation I want guys asking themselves. You already know about physical health is important. You already know mental health is important. Well, guess what? Sexual health touches both physical and mental and spiritual to some degree, depending upon who you are. It's a powerful force.
I've told people, because people ask me, it's like, or I've kind of gotten to that point where it's like, well, did it get bad to where, do you think watching it's bad? This is my opinion on it. If you're doing it and watching it for sexual activities, I think it's okay. If it gets to the point where it affects your life, you don't go to work, you can't do normal activities, it gets to where you have to watch it 24/7, that's when it's a problem. Is that if it's controlling you so much to the point where you can't do anything, whether it's tasks around the house, working, social life, anything else, that's when it gets to be like, okay, you need help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I
I'm
would add to that lying to, like, if you're in a relationship, lying about it. That also could be a flag, red
yeah,
flag. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's yeah, I get it.
it a lot of people get really ashamed of it, and everyone's watched it at some point in their life or they've heard of it. I mean, granted, sure, there might be someone out there that hasn't seen a video or anything. How they've managed to do that, beyond me. But more along the line, someone's watched at least one video in their lifetime.
Yeah.
It,
Oh my gosh. Of course.
it's
Everybody.
it's not a bad thing. It's like trying to think of like a good thing that's bad, but it's still I can't think of it. I was going to say like drugs, and I thought no. Then I was like, no, 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 no. I,
Well, that's the analogy you used earlier. And so the thing is about taking a drug, and it's not a perfect analogy, Noah, but if you borrow that perspective, and why do people call it a drug? Because of its physiological and emotional impact on the person. It creates joy, connection, relaxation, release of libido, a connection if you're in a relationship, or is it causing shame, dysregulation, impacting self-esteem, corrupting the arousal template? And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, because while by the time people come to me, Noah, they have come to a different conclusion than you. The conclusion that they have come to is that I can't regulate this responsibly. I'm just going to stop pretending that I can. I cannot. And number two, I don't want to regulate it responsibility because of the impact it's having on my arousal template, how I feel about myself, and in many cases, my relationship. So for a lot of guys are saying, not for religious reasons, although that may have an influence, but are saying, you know what? This great porn experiment, I'm out. Like I am, starting to see the data, the trend that is saying that for a lot of us, not everybody, because there is such a thing called ethical porn. There are even Christian adult content creators. So how's that for a monkey wrench? So I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. And there's a growing movement of men saying, no, Mas, I am not giving these companies my sexual energy, my time, my dollars. And there are questions about the porn that you are watching. You know, was it manufactured with consent, fair working conditions, or, you know, was some of it on the trafficking spectrum? So those are all the different questions we get to ask ourselves in that journey towards sexual health, which I think is so, so, so important.
What's been, have you had people that have come to you that are just really, they want help, but they just end up and help's not really an option? Are there cases where people get so addicted to them that even recovery or trying to go to an addiction place is just not enough?
Yes, sometimes there's a medical solution that's necessary. So, for example, there is a prescription called naltrexone, which essentially dims down the volume of the triggers, turns down the volume of the triggers. Originally prescribed for smoking, other drugs, and it's been prescribed for compulsive sexual behavior. And any other medication from a mood stabilizing perspective, Noah. We had a client recently who we figured out had OCD. He needed medication. So I have never seen a hopeless case. I have never seen a hopeless case. I've seen cases that require a great degree of care and sophistication in the treatment plan and the effort to sustain that long-term stuff. But I've never seen a hopeless case.
Well,
The
I think
fact that they're
that's,
reaching out, no, the fact that they're reaching out, that they had the capacity to say, I'm like, I need help. We always build on that. I might not be the right fit for them, but we always build on that.
yeah, they're still reaching out, to have a case that hasn't been like a failure. That that says
Oh,
a
I
lot.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. 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 And this goes back, Noah, to different people respond to different things. So, you know, during the first 30 days in the program, we're really being proactive about, is this working? Are we solving your problem? Do you connect? That connection piece impacts results. If you don't connect, if there are any listeners here working with a therapist that they don't connect with, look up the word therapeutic alliance and you will find that that is the single greatest predictor of results, is that connection. So absolutely. And with those people, we do everything we can to help them find the right resources, like that OCD guy I mentioned.
During this kind of journey with this company and kind of this thing, what's been some of the biggest lessons you've learned um from it all?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Biggest lessons. I mentioned already, different people respond to different things. What I have learned, Noah, which is particularly important in these challenging times, I am in the unique predicament as a really successful sex and porn addiction coach that has had on the same calls a diversity and inclusion professor and a minister, left, right. And I've been doing this for 13 years, Noah, and we have never had an untoward religious conversation. We've never had an untoward political conversation, because at the end of the day, now when we focus on what we agree on, we're like 95% aligned, 96%, you know, probably even more in terms of the, you know, really, really what we want. So I've learned how much alike we are. I learned how much we have in common. Learn underneath the surface. So many of us want the same things, to be significant, to be valued, to be a contributing member of society, to be a good partner, good parent, good community leader. And so that has been really, really insightful to see people who would normally, according to the talk shows, not get along, but find union and community as men supporting each other on the 96%, on the goals of being, you know, a man of value, a man of integrity, and a man who wants to heal and grow.
As you had kind of mentioned about talk shows, you've been featured on numerous talk shows, the Steve Harvey Show, Kate Couric, and the Anderson Cooper Show. Tell me a little bit about how these opportunities kind of came to be. Did the people or producers approach you? Did you approach them about trying to get this message out? How did that work?
Well, they approached us, Noah. We were, when my wife and I started the Mindful Habit, there were only a few providers that worked with people nationwide. And there was no couple of which we were aware that was talking about this publicly. Like we went on the Katie Couric show, the biggest talk show at the time, like Oprah, Ellen, that type of quality talk show, not Jerry Springer, no offense. And we were one of the first couples that was willing to talk about something that was so shameful. So they found us online, flew us in, picked us up, gave us the, VIP treatment for a day, which was wonderful and a lot of fun. But yeah, and then the next one came, and then the next one came, and then the next one came, and here we are.
I think it's awesome that they actually reached out to you and wanted this on their show because talk show hosts, especially for daytime, this is something that nighttime hosts would eat up because it's a
Yeah.
nighttime conversation. And to be able to have this conversation on a daytime show, it, it shows something of how important they think that this problem is and that it's a issue that a lot of people could really find. Um, it's just really interesting to see like a daytime show be able to be open and vulnerable about it and not really care about what critics would say about it. Um, what what's some dream goals or main missions for the future that you have for this business? Do you plan on hopefully expanding more? Do you have any bucket list
Yes. Yes,
cash that
Noah.
you'd like to reach?
I do. I do. So, one of the things that we are literally doing right now is expanding the scope of our services beyond sex and porn addiction to leadership and professional development. I work with executives, I work with leaders, I work with, ambitious people. I help them thrive. And what we've learned, Noah, is that while not everybody might identify as a sex and porn addict, but there's a whole group of people who identify with burnout, poor coping strategies, imposter syndrome, relationship challenges, too much internet. So we're expanding the tent, and that is super exciting. It's something that I've dreamed about for 13 years. And as the clients came, I'm like, okay, and now we've helped someone with gambling, we've helped someone with alcohol, we've helped someone with the internet. And so we're finally putting a stake in the ground, launching a new website, a new podcast, and it's really exciting to see how we've grown from a little, like, shooting content in our tiny apartment in the living room. It looked all fancy in the background. We had a green screen behind us. No, it was in the shooting videos in the closet, way back when we started this thing. So to start and where this began, just to reiterate, it was after I tried to hurt myself and got fired from my second job. And I said, honey, my wife, who literally saved my life, said, we're going to start a life coaching company. What? What? Are you insane? Think about that, right? I was just hospitalized, but I knew I had something special. I knew I could help people. I knew that doing this would bring me so much more joy than being an executive in a big corporation. And one of the best decisions I ever made. I'm blessed for my rock bottom. I wouldn't be here without it.
Well, I think it's a great program, and it's, I think, a particular kind of recovery program that most people would feel ashamed of to admit because it's something that I don't think they really understand how to fully explain. And have a proper way of sharing it without being immediately judged. We
Yes.
live in such a judgy world and society where something like this would really get looked down upon, and it really would change kind of the perspective of how people are perceived and how they're visualized visualized as. um I'm this is just me being curious, but from the thousands that you've helped some really high profilers like Olympians, you've had professional athletes and even celebrities. I'll bleep it because I don't like having their names out. I'm
Yeah.
curious who famously has been in the program that you can share. Again, I'll bleep their name out. So
Yeah. No, there are only two people, Noah, in the world who have seen our client list, and that is me, and that is my wife, Michelle. And that's the way it's going to stay. My clients pay me very well to protect their confidentiality, Noah. But listen, it's like and that's why we're building this new leadership site, because people can't refer me. Like, listen, when I tell you pop icon, Pro Bowler athlete, professional coach of a major sports team, crushing it, senior executive at the highest levels of the American corporation. But because of that shame, they'll write an anonymous testimonial, but they won't put themselves out there. And so that's when we took us 13 years to figure it out. But wait, like, we need a business that people can refer that deals with a number of different things, including this one, versus only this. Because the truth, no, is we can't beat this problem if we don't address the depression, if we don't address the anxiety, if we don't address the imposter syndrome, we don't address the relationship challenges. It has to be in scope. If it's not in scope, the behavior is going to return. You haven't addressed the root. So that's where we're at. But yes, that is my long answer, a way of saying no.
I fully understand that. I was just like I was curious. So I was when it comes to this, I had someone on here recently that worked on flight attendant. She was a personal flight attendant for private jets and she had always flown with celebrities and I was like trying to like weave in there and get some information out. But I always like to put the bleep out there because, that's my main thing is if you're telling personal stories and personal names come up, I heavily relate to you on confidentiality. I think that's really important. And I always bleep it out to keep them private to where people don't know who it is. Plus,
Yeah,
it gives them a fun guessing game of who I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah,
Kind of to wrap things up a little bit, if someone's listening to this show and they feel that they have a problem with sex or they have a problem with porn, if they think that they are addicted to it too much, what advice do you have for them on ways that they can start making that step and start making that journey on trying to get it tamed down to where they can actually be open about it without being shameful?
yeah, yeah. A two-part answer. My first part answer, Noah, to everyone listening is don't ignore the low-hanging fruit. You cannot beat this problem if you are not eating well, sleeping well, hydrating, exercising, and practicing mindfulness. That may be a new concept for some of your listeners, but Google it. A lot of great resources. And the mindfulness I'm talking about, 60 seconds, sitting up straight, sitting in the discomfort, counting your breaths. Brain gets distracted, bring it back to your breath, gets distracted, like 60 seconds, like that's it. Those five things are critical. People overcomplicate this problem. They want to get into the trauma, the shame, all important. But if you're not taking care of yourself and you don't have the identity of someone who takes care of themselves, who loves themselves, that's priority number one. Make sure you're taking good care of yourself because there's often so much low hanging fruit. The second thing is to tell somebody. someone safe, someone you care about, someone who's not going to judge you, and that might be someone online. It might be in a on a subreddit, the NoFap subreddit, or it might be on they got a sex addiction one. It might be in another community. But what I like to tell people, Noah, is life is too short to suck. If your sexual energy is out of whack, then that probably means your physical health, mental health, spiritual health is out of whack. Get help. There's a lot of great free resources, and if anybody comes through you, Noah, just know I'm going to give them a really deep discount, 50% off, maybe even more on the core training program if they're a fit. You're a young man, we've got deep discount for young men. Visit mindfulhabithelp.com. Tell me Noah sent you, and you're going to get the biggest discount that we give to veterans, first responders, and young men. It's deep, and the reason I do it, because it's my business. I can do whatever I want, and if someone's genuine and earnest and wants to get help, we'll make it work.
Well, I appreciate you so much, Craig, for coming on and sharing this program and sharing this recovery. I think it is important that people that if it has gotten to that point where it is a problem, it's important for you to be able to take it upon yourself, get help, and not be ashamed of it. I mean, it's the same thing with mental health. People get ashamed that they get depression, they get anxiety, they feel ashamed, and they don't know how people are. It's the same thing with that. Do it for you. Don't who cares what everyone thinks? It's none of their business anyways. If
Yeah,
you want to do it personally, you don't want people to know about it, you don't have to tell people. And if they ask
right.
you, it says private information that you don't want to say it. And take it upon yourself to go to that website and um use that, tell him that you got sent from me and you'll get 50% off. I think that's a great deal for starting out. So feel free to I'll put his website down there. Also, if people want to connect with you on social media about maybe they have questions about the program or just want to stay connected, where can they find you on the social media side?
Sure. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. People can get in touch with me there, or simply the number on the website, Noah too, if they want to get in touch.
And I will put all of his websites, his links for social media and his website down in the description for you to for it to be easy access. He also does have a podcast, um
Sex afflictions and porn addictions. That took me a while to get that to roll off my tongue. You're like, wait,
I knew the word. I was trying to get it out there, and I was like, "Oh, don't fuck up." I was like, "Okay, get it out there, get it out there, get it out there." So, Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions with Craig Perra. It's a podcast that's out wherever it is available now. I'll put a link down to there as well if you would like to go check that out and listen to it and get. I'm pretty sure he gives great advice on there. You hear some more stories on there. So, and again, I'll put all these links down there. Feel free to follow me on social media as well. Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as Noah's Podcast. So feel free to follow me on those platforms if you would like to keep information and keep up to date about the podcast on the social media side. And as always, listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcast from. I'm available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's everywhere, so feel free to subscribe to where you get notified when new episodes come out. Thank you to all my listeners for tuning into today's episode. Hopefully, you learned something and had some great advice. Again, highly suggest you take it upon his offer to go to his website and check out the recovery program he has. And again, lastly, again, I'll remind you, if you go there and say that you got referred to me, you get a 50% off discount for if you get renewed by me. So take it upon that offer. Y'all, everyone hopefully has a great rest of your day and week. Be safe, make good decisions, and I'll see you on the next episode of Lethal Venom.